That's the bike on the rear paddock stand. I can get at the underside of the chain. I want to be able to get at the top of the chain to lube it. And that would seem to be the best place to lube a chain. I suspect that might be why there's a gap in the guard. I can lube the bottom here. I need to check that play as well. As you can see, that is an awful lot of fling that is going onto that exhaust, the back of the exhaust. Now, what I've got here is chain cleaner, but what works just as well as a degreaser is white spirit. There's nothing to stop you from using white spirit. I can spray this directly on the chain using cloths and everything to protect it, or I can use this handy little gadget. Now the reason I'm doing this, do the chain first before you clean the bike. So start with the chain cleaner before you wash the bike. Take some time on it because it's going to be gunked up. And always use a cloth that is disposable. You're certainly not going to be using this for anything else once it's covered in used lube. You can see this chain is only a year old, yet it has already got a couple of little spots of rust. How interesting is that, hey? Now, whatever you use on this chain, don't use it on anything else. If you're using a brush, don't use that brush anywhere except on the chain. Now the chain, it's not totally loaded with garbage, this chain, because it's only a year old, obviously. And the bike doesn't normally go out in the wet. It's a completely different routine if you are riding in a country where there's a lot of wet weather, or of course where there's road salt. And touch and go as to whether you've done the whole chain. Some people put a little mark on one of the links so they know when they've gone all the way around. While we're down here, let's get this off the exhaust where the lube has attached itself to the various parts. Now it's up to you how anal you are regarding cleaning. But now's the time to do it before you wash the rest of the bike. Taking it off the paddock stand, always make sure as a precaution you've got the side stand out. And when taking it off, it might help you a little bit to roll to the left if you bring the front wheel round to the left. Firm hold underneath the strap and then slowly put your weight on it to bring the bike upright gently. And then if you've got hold of the bike with your left hand, remove the paddock stand, double check your side stand, bring your bike down. It's all about practice. So we have a gravel driveway, which means this is the only bit of concrete. This is the only place I can wash the bike. I kid you not. First things first is to spray the wheels. So this is just Bowden's Australian Wheelie Clean, it's called. Oh, the 2-bucket method. The left-hand bucket, I'm going to put some soap in. The right-hand bucket for cleaning the cloths. The bike isn't particularly dirty. It's got bugs on it, as you can see. So sometimes the best thing to do for bugs is to soak a clean cloth in your headlight, for example. It's covered in bugs there. Always make sure you've got plenty of cloths for cleaning. Make sure it's well wet also. So remember, bikes are designed to be out there in the rain. We have the quad lock charging unit here, and I don't want to get that soaking wet, so just going to cover it, try and keep it as dry as possible. How are the bugs doing? So now that they've all got nice and wet, that's got rid of the bugs off there. So we've also got some bugs on the front forks. Just wrap the cloth around as best you can. Try and help soften up that bug goop. And then let's get the bike wet. Whatever you do, don't drop this cloth, sponge, cloth, whatever it is that you're using, and drop it on the ground. Now, as you see, I am not a fan of jet washing, power washing, whatever you want to call it, so I don't do it. You lot out there, you do what you like. So that's the wheel cleaner on the floor, can you see that? That purple stuff? So that's the wheel cleaner, the purple residue. How about this one? It's a really cute name. So the radiator guard is covered in bugs. Don't let it dry. And that's also why the bike isn't out there in the sun. So anything that's at the front is likely to get bug guts. Just need a bit of a soak to get them off. Don't forget to rinse your clothes regularly. How's that looking? I think it's looking pretty clean. As with most naked bikes, front which takes the bulk of the bugs, and if you clean them off regularly, it means there's not a build-up. The finish is just a good old-fashioned hose down with a garden hose. Blower just gets the worst of it off, a very powerful one. And next you need a good drying towel. And there's lots of different variations of these, but what you're after is just getting the areas where there's going to be a watermark. You don't get the water off. Those fogs have come up really well. Now keep your drying towel separate and your plastics, use something else. And that's the second time in one filming session that the GoPro is totally frozen up. This is a brand new GoPro 11, and I am now at the end of my GoPro life, I think. A different cloth for down below, a different cloth to the one you use on your paintwork, and that is not bad. So what I really like about this bike is all the inspection windows there are, so you can instantly see what's what. This is going to be a brake fluid reservoir. Obviously you can't see the liquids, so the brake's on a good old lean. And then you have down here, I can still see some water here and there. You could use an airline, but again, no, caution. So, what do we think? All that's left, stand the bike up. Next is the chain. So when you're doing this, you always know if the bike feels like it's going to go somewhere, to drop it to the left. So what's next is you want to blacken up your black plastics. This is the stuff. Spray it on cloth. Now I recommend, so whatever you do, don't silicone your seat, will you? So things to remember when you're cleaning your bike. A good quality degreaser or chain cleaner. So a good degreaser, good cheap degreaser is white spirit. Try not to get it on any paintwork, so be careful when you're using it. But white spirit, great degreaser. Washing your bike, get a good quality shampoo. Plenty of water. We only use cold water. I don't like the idea of hot water, and I don't use a jet wash or a pressure washer. Wheelie clean, something for your wheels, something that you can spray on your wheels. Wheels are really difficult to get at. Save yourself the trouble and get yourself a wheel cleaner. If you're in an area where you get bits of tar, then you'll need a tar cleaner. There's a strong bug cleaner if you need it, but the method I showed you, which is wet cloths, just systematically put wet cloths on the areas which have got a lot of bugs. The bugs soften up, they've hardened on the bike, so they soften up with the water and then they're easier to remove. And then if you're also so inclined, some kind of a wax. But once the bike is dry, you've dried the bike off, you can use a leaf blower. Our leaf blower isn't very particularly strong, it's a battery one, or you can use a compressor. Just be cautious. Stay away from anything that's got seals, or anything that you know has got high volumes of grease on it, or your electrics. It's common sense at the end of the day, but think and learn by your mistakes. And use the 2-bucket method. So one bucket has the soapy water in it, the other bucket is just clean rinsing water. Rinsing water, if you spray something on somewhere accidentally, you've got a bucket straight away that you can rinse off, or if you've got the hose pipe. So I always wash off with a hose pipe, and then I blow the worst of the water off, and then some kind of a drying towel is good. Micro cloths that you get everywhere these days. They're excellent. I tend to stick with the obvious. The dark cloths for dark items. You need a disposable cloth for degreasing. It needs to go in the bin. Don't wash it and try and use it again. It'll be full of grit and crap and God knows what. So dark cloths for dark items, light cloths for light items, such as the tank. Don't get them mixed up. Save yourself the trauma. Don't scratch your paintwork. And on this bike, on the Kawasaki, after a year of ownership, there isn't anything on the bike which seems to be fading, degrading. The black plastics is still black. Everything is perfect after a year. But we do live in Australia, so we are not subject to road salt, which is in some countries, like the UK, where they cover the roads in all kinds of awful stuff, which helps to eat away at the metalwork on your motorcycle and any other vehicle that you happen to have. After a year, this bike looks pristine, except for, let me show you, except for here. Can you just see that damage? You can just make out that damage? Now, that is self-inflicted. That's because I'm putting a Krieger bag on the back, and obviously it's rolling over onto the paintwork. So what I need is some of that clear film that you get as a tank protector. This bike doesn't have any tank protection on it. I make sure that my clothes don't have anything sharp, so I don't want to be putting one of those really awful tank protectors on there. I don't need it, but clearly I need something on the back. So there's the information on the, can you see that? There's the information on the chain slack. So a normal adjustment is 20 to 30 millimeters. 25 mil is an inch. It just so happens that my thumb to the first knuckle is an inch. My thumb is 1 inch. Where we're going to measure should be between the 2 sprockets. Everything's so easy to get at on this bike. Sprocket number 1 and there's sprocket number 2. Halfway between the 2, just about there. So what do we think? Let's put that thumb. So that thumb is on the bottom of the swing arm. That's level with the bottom of the chain. I reckon that's 25 mil. That's less than 25 mil. Don't think there's any stretch on there. It's from there to there. I reckon that's 20 mil. When looking at that back wheel after you've cleaned it, if there's anything on that back wheel, clean it off. Likewise, if you suspect you've got anything on that brake disc or either of the brake discs, clean it off. Check your brake discs. One thing's for sure, those brakes could save your life. So double checking the exhaust, that is really clean. There's no lube spatter on that. And always remember also, when you lube the chain, don't lube the chain just before you're going to go for a ride. Especially if it's a waxy type of lube. It needs to dry, otherwise it's just going to fling off. And finally, put it away. Now this bike is not a heavy bike, but all bikes are quite different to manoeuvre. So use your body, lean the bike against. Make sure you don't lean it too far, of course. And anything that you've taken off during the clean, remember to put it back. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this how to clean your bike video. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, because that's what YouTube wants in order to see whether there's any interest on these videos or not. And please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.